Okay. Let us begin. So the concept you need to know in week 9 is about perimeters and areas of basic shapes, and then you'll move on to more complicated shapes. So let's start with simple definitions. What is perimeter? The perimeter is basically, let's take the case of a rectangle. The perimeter in this case of this rectangle, if we draw it again, let's just draw it here real quickly. The perimeter is basically the length and the width, and the length down here and the width down here. It is the shape, the outside edges of the shape. Okay, so the perimeter of any shape is just simply the outside edges of the shape, the value of them, how much it is. So in this case, you will find the length. Let's say the length is given to you guys as 5, for example, and the width as 3. All right, you'll just simply do, this is definitely going to be 5 and 3 as well over here, sorry, 3. You're just going to do 5 plus 3 plus 5 plus 3, and that is your perimeter. Okay, perimeter is very simple for all the shapes. It's just simply the sum of all the sides, all the outside edges, I should say, of that shape. I'm pretty sure most of you don't have a big issue with the perimeter. It's mainly the area. I will just cover now the area mainly of all the shapes, and I'll talk about that. And, you know, the perimeter should be much more straightforward. I'll just cover it a bit later on. Let's start with a simple shape, like I said, like a rectangle. So the rectangle, the perimeter of a rectangle is like I showed you earlier, but let's go into area. The area is dependent. So what is area? Area is basically, you want to know inside here how much of this is covered. Yani the covered area inside here is how much. What's the value of that? So we need to find all this yellow inside, basically. How can we do that? So let's take a simpler, smaller rectangle of one box. So in the grid, you can see here, we have like boxes all over. So let's say every line is 1 centimeter in size. So like this line over here, it's 1 centimeter, and this line here is also 1 centimeter based on the grid. So we have a box that is 1 centimeter by 1 centimeter. What does that mean? That means it's basically 1 centimeter times 1 centimeter. That's the area of this box, of one box over here. Area is equal to 1 centimeter times 1 centimeter, which is equal to 1 times 1 is 1. Centimeter times centimeter is centimeter squared. Any number multiplied by itself is centimeter squared, is just squared. So let's go a bit more deep into this. So this is just for a very small 1 centimeter box. If we look at a larger rectangle like the one over here, okay, if we look at this rectangle over here, this rectangle, it has, you can look inside and you can see it has multiple boxes inside. So the area is simply just counting the number of boxes inside. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So we can simply say the area in this case, because we know that one box, for one box, it's 1 centimeter squared. So for 12 boxes, it will be 12 centimeter squared. So that's the area of this shape. But obviously you don't have, you know, the privilege, you cannot just find the boxes yani, in any shape. They're never going to give you the boxes inside. So how can you do that mathematically? So if you notice here, we have 4 boxes in the first row. يعني هنا عندنا we have 1, 2, 3, 4. So this length is 4 centimeters. Why? Because each line here is 1 centimeter, 2 centimeters, 3 centimeters, 4 centimeters. Same thing with the side. The side over here is 1, 2, 3. So this is 3 centimeters. Okay? So if you notice, very simply, how can you find the 12? You just have to multiply this number over here. You have to multiply the 3 by the 4, because that's how you will reach your number 12. You have this number of value boxes over here, and you have 3 number of boxes over here. So it's simply the area for a rectangle is just simply going to be 4 times 3, or length times width, which is equal to 12 centimeter squared. Again, I'm just explaining the theory very slightly. You don't have to understand the theory. You have to understand the equation mostly or memorize it. And I'm just explaining the theory so it might help a bit with understanding where the equations come from. So, to recap, the area of a rectangle is going to be equal to the length of the rectangle times the width of the rectangle. The perimeter of the rectangle is going to be equal to length plus width plus length plus width. Because if you look at a rectangle, you have a length here, you have width here, you have length here, you have width here. A simplified version of the perimeter, you could say it's equal to 2L plus 2W. I just grouped the two L's over here. These two L's and these two W's, I grouped them, so it's 2L plus 2W, which is equal to simply 2 times L plus W. You can memorize any of these equations, whichever you're more comfortable with. They are all correct. كلهم صح. There's nothing wrong with any of these equations. Whichever is easier for you to understand, you could use. So this is the case for a rectangle. Moving on to a square. What is a square? It's simply just a rectangle where the length of the rectangle is equal to the width. So this is the same. This is basically a rectangle with this case, where the length is equal to the width, which I called side, S. Okay? So, and we apply the exact same concept of the rectangle. So the area of a square is, if we do it in rectangle form, it's L times W. But since L and W are equal to each other, they're both equal to the side, S times S. It's simply equal to S squared. The perimeter of a square is going to be equal to, if we use L plus W plus L plus W, simply saying S plus S plus S plus S, because in a square, all the sides are equal. So this is S, 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 S. You just add 4 S's. So you can write it in a different way. You can just write 4S. Very simple. A square is a simpler rectangle. That's all it is. So we found the area and we found the perimeter. Now let's move on to a triangle. A triangle, I'm pretty sure most of you know the equation is BH over 2 and all of that for the area. But let's start first, let's see where that comes from. So let's take this shape over here on the right, the B over B. We have the B, which is the base, and the H, which is the perpendicular height, as in it forms a perpendicular over here with the base. How did we get that equation that we always know, which is BH over 2? If we'll take a rectangle of the same size. So let's just copy this. Okay, let's put this here. So let's complete this as if it is a full rectangle. Okay? So this is the rectangle. The rectangle, we already know what the area of a rectangle is. It is the length times the width. All right? Or in this case, the length is called the base, B, and the width is the height, H. Okay? The area of a rectangle, we know that the area of a rectangle is simply equal to length times width, or in this case, base times height for the rectangle. The triangle, we are basically cutting the rectangle in half. So we are cutting it over here. So simply, if we want to just find the area over here for just the triangle part, it is equal to area of the triangle is equal to base times height, which is this area over here, the area of the full rectangle, over 2. So it's BH over 2. This is the area of a triangle. For any type of triangle, you could do the same thing. Here we have a simple right angle triangle, so it was very easy to find. If we look at the case over here, you notice that the triangle here, it's not a right angle triangle, but we have the perpendicular or height, or the height that forms a right angle with the base. if I want to show you here how we can get the equation, again, it's the same equation. We're going to get BH over 2. It's the same exact equation. But how do we reach that point? If we draw the rectangle for each side of this triangle. So let's do the first rectangle over here. And then let's do the second rectangle over here. Okay, that's a bad rectangle, but you get the concept. So let's basically like cut it in half. Okay, so and we apply the exact same concept. What we are trying to find is this red part over here for both. Okay, if we apply the same concept, we know the same concept exactly that we just did. So we know for the purple part, this is the base, you know, up till here. This is the base, and this is the height. For the green part, same thing. This part is the base, and this is the height. Of the rectangle I'm speaking, just the rectangular part. And then we divide that by 2. We're going to get, or let's call this base 1, and this base 2. And the heights are equal. It's the same height. So you will notice that if we apply the same concept that we applied earlier, the area of the triangle for the first triangle, let's call it triangle 1, is equal to h times b1 over 2. Because it's basically the full rectangle, we're dividing by 2. And area of the triangle 2 is equal to h times b2 over 2. Okay, again, I'm explaining the concept. If you're not understanding the concept, it's fine. It's just I'm trying to show you where the area comes from. You can just memorize the area equation and you will be fine for your exams. So we have these two triangles, but since we're just finding only half of the rectangle, we're dividing by 2. Now we just need to sum them up, like we need to group it because we need to find both areas, like the total area of the triangle. We need to find the full red part. The whole red part. We need to find this whole thing. So we have to add the two areas. The two areas, if we add them, the total area, just AT, it's going to be H B1 over 2 plus H B2 over 2. If we can rewrite this, it's going to be H B1 plus B2, okay, over 2. I just grouped them and then I took out the H as common. Okay. If we simplify this, we know that B1 and B2 is equal to B. This B1 over here, the B1 over here, plus the B2 over here is equal to the total base. The total base, this B is equal to B1 plus B2. So we can just substitute this B instead of this, and you will see that we get the exact same equation where AT is equal to H B or B times H, it's the same thing, over 2. B times H over 2. So that's where you get the area, or how you can find, or how it is proven the area of a triangle is this equation. For the perimeter of the triangle, you need to have this side as well. Let's call it side A, for example. It will just simply be B plus H plus A. Because what did we say? The perimeter is just the sides. Just the sides. We need to add all of them up. And that's your perimeter. Now, remember one key concept. The area is always going to be squared, like the unit of the area is always going to be squared, whereas the unit of a perimeter is going to just be centimeter or meter or whatever the unit is given. It's not going to be squared because they're just lines you are adding. You are not doing any multiplication in this case. Okay, so this is just another thing to keep in mind, that the area is always going to be squared because you're multiplying centimeter by centimeter. Here you are not multiplying anything with each other, and we will see that when we're solving examples. Now, moving on from the triangle, let's go to the parallelogram. The parallelogram is basically a slanted يعني منعوي a rectangle that is slanted يعني rectangle شي نايم على صوب شوي. So the area of the parallelogram is the same as the area of the rectangle of the same size. Meaning, if we draw a rectangle here, okay, if we draw a rectangle of the same size, so let's just copy paste this so I can show it on the actual parallelogram we have. So let's say we draw a rectangle here. So this is your rectangle. بس imagine تخيلوا يعني this rectangle is being like shifted from the bottom يعني ساحبينه, you know, you pulled it from the bottom to the left side و it became deformed يعني تغير الشكل ماله and it became into the red shape. If you notice here, the size of the rectangle, the base here, this base is the same as the base here. Okay? It's the same size. But the difference here is this part, this triangular part here, you could say, has just been shifted over here. Of the same size, it's exactly the same size. Nothing changed in size. So what do we know? We know that the area of this rectangle over here, area of the rectangle, which is equal to length times width, or in this case, it's base times height. This base times this height, okay? Area of the parallelogram will be the exact same thing because it's the exact same size. So the area of the parallelogram is going to be equal to base times height, where the height is the perpendicular height. The height over here, it's the perpendicular height with the base of that parallelogram. All right? You don't take the slanted height. يعني اللي منعوي ما تاخذونه. You take the line, the straight line that forms a right angle with the base. And that's the area of a parallelogram. And if you want to find the perimeter of a parallelogram, the perimeter of a parallelogram, let's just give these values. Let's call this B. This is also B. And let's call these A because they're all equal in size. Okay? So it's simply just A plus B plus A plus B, or you can say it's just 2A plus 2B, which is equal to 2A plus B, where A is the size is the side that is slanted, يعني اللي منعوي, this side, not the H. They're two different things. Okay, so for the area, you're just going to do base times height. For the perimeter, you're just going to add all the sides that are surrounding it. A parallelogram is basically any shape that is, يعني, that has four sides and two sides, like both opposite sides are parallel. يعني هذا الline and this line and this line هذيلا parallel مع بعض. يعني they never meet, and this side are also parallel. That's what a parallelogram is. Okay? And now let's move to a trapezoid. A trapezoid is basically a shape with four sides, but only two sides of those four sides are parallel. So the other two sides, they're not parallel. So in this example, let's just give these names. Let's call this A, B, C, D, because they're all unequal. They're all different values. None of the values are equal. But only two lines, A and B, are just parallel to each other. But C and D are not. So the way to explain the area here, how it's formed, there are multiple ways, but I believe this is the easiest way to understand. It's split. You can split basically this into three parts. So let's call this is part one. This is the second part over here in the middle. And this is the third part. Okay, if you notice, the first part is a triangle, a right triangle that we already know the sizes of, that we already know the area of. Then the other side is also a triangle, a right triangle that we can find the area of, and the middle part is just a rectangle that we also know how to get the area of. تمام? So هني إنزين we have, let's call this B1. Let's call this B1. Let's call this B2. and let's call this B3. This is just the base of each side. The height is all equal. The height is all going to be equal for all sides, which is the height here, this h, okay? It's equal to here h, which is equal to the squares h, and is equal to the other triangles h. The height is the same for all of them. So if we can find the areas of each specific part by itself. So for the blue part, the blue triangle, the area is going to be equal to area triangle 1 and simply B1h over 2, which we already know from before. For the middle part, the rectangle, it's simply just B2 times height. So the area of the rectangle is B2 times height. And for the third part, or the third triangle, AT3 or AT2, second triangle, is B3 times the height. This B3 over here times this B3 times the height over 2. Okay? And we just have to add all of these up. Okay? We're going to have to add all of these up. And we will find the total area. So if we're just going to add them up, so the total area of a trapezoid is going to be equal to B1h plus B2h plus B3h. Of course, this is over 2. This is over 2. Okay? You can simplify this in so many different ways. But eventually, you're going to reach the equation of like the trapezoid. They're all going to be equal to the same equation of the trapezoid. So I'm going to just do it the way I usually do it. First, we know that this B1, B2, and B3, okay, B1 and B2 and B3 is equal to the total base over here, the total base of the triangle of the trapezoid. Yani, this B is equal to B1 plus B2 plus B3. صح ولا لا؟ لأن it's the base, it's the total length تحت, the total length at the bottom of the shape. So we can then use this for later on, but first let's simplify this equation. So the area of a trapezoid is B1. Let's take the height outside. Okay, let's just take this height because it's common in all of them outside. And then we can say it's B1 plus B3 over 2 plus B2. Okay, all I did was group them up and I took the H out as common. We simplify this more. We get B1 plus B2 plus B3 plus B2 times H. I don't want to confuse you guys so much with the math. I just want you guys to understand that eventually you will get the area of a trapezoid is equal to A plus B times H over 2, which is A plus B times H all over 2, if I'm not wrong. Yeah. Which is simply, this is in brackets, simply the A over here, the parallel sides, we're looking at the parallel sides, which is the first parallel side plus the second parallel side, A and B, multiply all of that with the perpendicular height h, and then you will divide by 2. All right? That's how you will simply do it. Now, this is for the area. So again, you don't need to memorize all of like the methodology, or you don't have to memorize all like the method of derivation. Okay, all you need to know is understand that the area of a trapezoid is A plus B times height over 2. And if we look at the perimeter of a trapezoid, it's very simply just A plus B plus C plus D, which is just these sides over here. A plus B plus C plus D. All right. Moving on to the circle. The circle, it might get a little bit confusing here, so just bear with me a little bit. يعني تحملوا بس شوية. Let's start first with the perimeter in this case. Now, before even moving on to that, in a circle, there are two main points you guys need to understand. We have something called the radius. The radius, or R, and then the radius is the distance from the center to any side. بما معنى, what does that mean? The distance, the radius is the distance from the center point, النقطة اللي في النص في الدائرة, in the circle, it's the center point of the circle. Any of these distances, any of this to the side, to the edge of the circle, all of these are radiuses. These are all considered radius, the radius of the circle, and they're all equal. This is called the radius. تمام? There's another thing that is also related to the radius and the circle. If we take a point, let's say from here to here, that passes through the circle, okay? Through the center, sorry. This is called the diameter, D. Diameter. Which is the distance from one side to the other, passing through the center. This is important. It has to be passing through the center. Any line you take that passes through the center, over here, all of these are equal and they're all diameters, as long as they're from one side to the other of the circle and they're passing through the center. Okay? Now, if we just go back to the concept here, we said that this is the radius, right? The radius is from here to here. This is the radius. And we know if we look at the other side from here to here, this is also the radius. So we can notice that two radiuses will form the diameter. So we know now that the diameter is going to be equal to 2 times the radius. Logically, لأن الراديوس is from the center to the side. And they're all equal. From the center to any side, the radius is always equal. So because that's the case, the distance from one side to the other that passes through the center من صوب لصوب الثاني ولازم يروح عن طريق النص بيكون الdiameter, it will be the diameter, which is equal to 2 times the radius. This is the diameter, which is equal to 2 times the radius. So these are basic concepts you need to know about a circle before we move on into the perimeter and diameter. Okay? Now, if we go a bit further into the perimeter now, the perimeter of this circle. Okay, we have the circle. So what did we say the perimeter of any shape is? It's the outside size of the shape, or the outside edges of the shape, the length of it. So imagine you are cutting the circle. You are cutting it at any point. يعني you are cutting it. تخيلوا like you have a spring or a string, or not a string, sorry, not a spring, a string يعني أو خيط or whatever, and you are wrapping it around the circle, and then you cut this spring and then or the string, and you just make a straight line out of it. So let's say يعني you cut it at here, وسحبتوه, you pulled it apart the circle and you made a straight line. Okay? This straight line, the size of the straight line, is your perimeter. In the case of a circle, this is called the circumference. Okay? This is called the circumference in the case of a circle. So the perimeter of a circle is called the circumference. And what is the value of the circumference? The value of the circumference is equal to pi times d, where d is the diameter, this diameter d. Okay? So the circumference, p, the perimeter p, or the circumference in this case, p, c, is equal to pi times d. Okay? This circumference, the equation of it, you just have to memorize it because this is a ratio. This was a proven ratio where pi is equal to the circumference of any circle over the diameter, basically. So this is a proven ratio for any type of circle, any size of circle. The pi, which is, you know, that number 3.141592, blah, 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 I don't know how long. It's an infinite number. It doesn't never stop. This ratio is equal to C over D. That's why the circumference or the perimeter is equal to pi times D in this case. Tamam? Where D is the diameter and C is the circumference and pi is a constant number, which is usually 3.14. Okay? So that is the circumference or the perimeter. In a circle, no one calls it the perimeter. They always call it the circumference because that's just the wording or the naming for the case of a circle. If we move on to the area of the same circle over here. Let's take this. Okay, if we look at the circle over here, الحين we need to find the area. The area, the proof of it now is going to seem a little bit messy, okay? Again, if you grasp the concept, I'm happy you did. If you are not, it's fine. You just have to memorize the equation. I'm going to start by telling you guys the equation. Area, everyone usually knows it as pi r squared, okay? Just one more point before I move on. Pi d is simply equal to 2 pi r. Why? Because remember, the diameter is equal to 2 times the radius. Okay? So you can just substitute the value of the diameter here, and you will find that it's equal to 2 times the radius. So 2 pi r is also the circumference of the circle. Keep in mind that for a circle, for whenever you are given in any circle, the radius or diameter, you can always find the other one because it's a simple equation. One is twice the other. Okay, so you only need either the radius or the diameter to start solving. Now, moving on to the area. The area, like I said, we know that the equation is pi r squared for a circle. But why is it pi r squared? I'll try to explain it as clear as I can, and I hope you guys will understand. Let's say we have like this circle, okay? Let's say there are like a lot of smaller circles inside, inside, until we go like to the smallest point inside, okay? Now, these circles, okay, they're all any even circles inside. Let's take the smallest one, okay? Let's color it green. Let's take the small one over here. إذا بطلناه يعني imagine you guys have like any circle and you cut it in the middle and you stretch it out, it will become like a small rectangle. It will be like a small rectangle like this. Okay, so if you have anything that is in a circle shape, and then you will cut it and you will stretch it out, it will look like a rectangle. Now let's do the same thing to the next circle, the one a bit bigger. It's going to be slightly a bigger rectangle. Let's do the same thing to the next one. It's going to be a slightly bigger rectangle. And so on and so on and so on until we reach the very last circle, the big circle, the red one. Okay? So we're basically like cutting it like this. Okay? This is being cut over here. And we're moving along this side over here until we reach the last circle. What do we know about the last circle? What do we know about the size of the last circle? We know that this, when we cut it and open it like this, okay, we know that this is the circumference, which we already found from before, which is equal to 2 pi r. So this side over here, the largest circle, is the largest bar is 2 pi r, the size of it from here to here, because we cut it and open it and we got this. And what do we know about this side? What is the size from here to here? The size, if you look, we went from the center and we cut it along the side until we reached 2 pi. What do we know about this point that starts from the center and ends at the end? We defined it earlier. The distance from the center to any side, so with the distance from the center to any side is simply equal to r, the radius. So we know that this is equal to the radius. Now, if you notice that this shape somewhat looks like a triangle. This shape basically looks like a triangle. If we want to find the area of this triangle, because this is the same as the area of the circle that we opened up. If we want to find the area of this triangle, area of a triangle is base, which is in this case r, times the height, which is 2 pi r, divided by 2. Area of a triangle, area of triangle. If we simplify this, we can cancel these 2's. We get pi r times r is r squared. And that's how we get this formula. Again, you don't need to memorize or understand any of this. This is just for clarification. I hope it helps. But I just wanted to show you how, like, the idea, there are a lot of different ways you can do this, but this is one of the ways you can show that the area of a circle is equal to pi r squared. Now, before I move on, does anyone have any like specific questions, not about the derivation, but about a specific area that they do not understand, which values they should take for the length, for the width, for the side, the height, the trapeze, like any of those, or any questions about the circle in general before we start moving on to questions? Because see, you need to, honestly, you have to be able to memorize all these equations. For the rectangle, the square, the parallelogram, the trapezoid, the triangle, the circle, you need to know the perimeters, the areas of all of these shapes. خلاص تكونون حافظين يعني memorized as if like it's 1 + 1 in your head, so we can be able to solve for more complex shapes and the areas of them. So before I move on, any questions? Okay. Let's go into the questions then. Let's go into an easy, simple question. Let's start with 1B. So find the perimeter if possible. If possible, find the perimeter and area of each of the following, each of the below LUT shapes. Okay. So now we know how to find the area of basic shapes like a rectangle, a basic circle, a basic triangle, all of those. Now in the case where you have, it's not a very simple shape, you have to like do some things to basically analyze and break down the shape into pieces, into smaller shapes that you do understand, and then manage to combine them all together. And we will see that as an example here. First of all, let's start with the perimeter. The perimeter P. Perimeter. Okay, so for the perimeter, we need to be able to add all these sides. I'm going to highlight the sides that we already have the dimensions of. So in this case, we know that this is 6 meters. We have that. We know that this is all 4 meters. We have that. Okay. We don't have the bottom one. The bottom one we need to figure out, which is here in red. We don't have this one. But we have this side, which is 2 meters. We have this side, which is 2 meters. And let's highlight this one in green. This is another one we do not have. Okay. So how do you manage to figure out what the dimensions of these are? Very simply, you start splitting your shapes into size and like into smaller shapes that you know how to find. And you should understand, how to relate each side to the other depending on the type of shape you have. So let's start with doing that first. You can split it in any way you want, whichever way it helps you. But the idea is you have to reach a shape you understand. يعني انتوا حين يوم بتقصقصون الشيبس توصلون لشيب نهائي تكونون يعني فاهمين إنه simple square, simple rectangle, all of those. So me, for example, I want to cut the shape here. Okay, I choose to cut the shape over here. Okay, this way I'm gonna have like a big rectangle or square and a small rectangle or square, and I'll be able to understand it better. Now, if we look at, so let me just remove all the highlighted parts real quickly that we already know. Let's just look at the sides we don't know. Let's start with the green side over here. This green side, we know that this green side is going to be equal to this side, right? Because, you know, in a simple square or rectangle, the opposite sides are equal. So we know that it's equal to this side, but we don't have this side. How can we find it? We know that the total side over here, this whole side is 4. It's already given to us as 4. So we know that this full side over here is also going to be equal to 4. Okay, so let's draw this on the side a bit. So if I take this line, and I draw it here. Okay. Oops. Okay, I'll take this line and I'll draw it on the side here. This is basically just this line, the same line. Okay. And we'll cut it here. This is the cut from over here. Okay. This side, this is the beginning of it, and this is the end of it. Okay, it's the same size. We know that this is 2 meters. It's already given to us. Okay, and we know that the total side is 4 meters because this total side over here is equal to the total side over here. So we know that the total side is 4 meters. So we need to find the number here. For example, let's call it X or whatever. This value over here, we need to find out how much it is. Logically speaking, you have to add all these sides and you will get the total side. So we know that X plus 2 is equal to 4. So if we solve for X, X is just equal to, we'll take the 2 to the other side, 4 minus 2, which is just simply equal to 2. So now we know that this X is equal to 2. So we know that this side, the green side, is equal to 2 meters. Because this green side is equal to 2 meters, this has to also be equal to 2 meters. Did this make sense? Before I move on, I want to know that everyone understood what I did here. If anyone has questions, ask, because this is the exact same way you will be solving almost every question. You'll have to split it, find the shapes, find the total length, find the given lengths, I should say, and then from the given lengths, you should be able to find whatever is missing. Good. Excellent. We will do the exact same thing again. Okay, I'm just going to do it. I'm just going to copy paste the shape again, but down here. Okay, we found that this is 2 meters already. So we have all these. Now what is remaining is this shape over here at the bottom, this side. We have to do the exact same thing. We'll have to split it. Whichever way that makes it easier, we're going to have to split it. And we're going to apply the exact same concept. We don't know what this side is. But we know that this full side at the top, this full side is 6 meters. So we know that this full side over here is 6 meters up to this point, And we know that this side, okay, if we draw the line at the bottom, so let's draw a line, okay, where this is the cut, this is the beginning, and this is the end. We know that this side is 2 meters. We know since this is 2 meters, this has to be 2 meters, and this has to be 2 meters. So we know that this is 2 meters. Let's do it this. This is equal to 2 meters. This is our X. We don't know what this side is we're trying to find. And we know that the total side is 6 meters. The total side over here, all of it, is blue. So it's equal to the 6 meters. And the X is red, which is equal to the red part that we're trying to find, which at the top, it's this red part over here. So if we just do the equation, we know that X plus 2 has to be equal to 6. X plus 2 is equal to 6 because we're just adding the sides. X plus 2 is equal to 6. If we solve for X, we take the 2 to the other side. X is going to be equal to 6 minus 2, so X is equal to 4 meters. So we found out that this is going to be equal to 4 meters. So now we know that this side is 4 meters. And now we found out all the sides, and now we can find the perimeter. If we found out that this side earlier was 2 meters, and we found out that this side now is 4 meters. Now we have all the sides. So if we want to find the perimeter now, perimeter is going to be equal to, go step by step, it's going to be equal to 4 plus 4 meters plus 4 meters plus 2 meters plus 2 meters plus 2 meters plus 6 meters. And that's it. And that's how you find your perimeter. Put that in the calculator. It's going to be 20 meters. So 4, 4, 8, 10, 20. Yeah, 20 meters. What I basically did is, for the first value of 4, it's this side, 4 meters, plus 4 meters, plus 2 meters, plus 2 meters, plus 2 meters, plus 6 meters. And that's your perimeter of your shape. That's how we find the perimeter. Very straightforward, very simple. Any questions anyone has about the perimeters? Again, I'll just recap very quickly. You'll just have to split it, use the known dimensions, the known values that you have, and from the known values, find out the unknown values by, either by my method, or if you can see it very straightforward directly, you could do it your way. And once you find all the perimeter sides, then you could just find the actual value of the perimeter. My advice is, first step, go through all the sides of the perimeter, see what you have and what you don't have. Look at the parts you don't have, highlight them or whatever, do it in your own way. عشان you just know how to solve and what you should be solving for من ناحية البارامتر. So any questions about this? Nothing? Good. Let's move on to the area. So the perimeter, we found it. Now let's go to area. Area. Again, we're going to cut the shape to a simpler shape we know. Okay, we already found out that this is 2 meters and we found out that this is 4 meters. Now, for the area, what you are always going to do is now look at the entire simple shape. So in this case, we have 2 squares. We have the first square, which is this. Okay, this full square over here up to this line. And then we have the other square, which is this, the yellow square over here. You know what? Let's do it in green. The green square over here. Okay? So let's look at each area by itself. Let's look at the red part first. So area, the red part is a square. So area of a square. Let's call this 1. Okay, so 1 is area of the square. Area of a square, we know that the area of a square is just the side squared. So in this case, we have a square. We have a square, okay, where the side is equal to 4 meters. Because you notice here, it's 4 meters by 4 meters. So it's a 4 by 4 square. Area is equal to side squared, so the area is simply equal to 4 squared, which is equal to 16 meters squared. This is meters squared. Remember that the area is always squared. The perimeter is in meters because we're not multiplying. We are adding meters. When we're adding, it's going to stay in meters. Nothing's going to change. In area, in this case, we're squaring, or if we write it in a different way, it's 4 meters times 4 meters. So the meter is being multiplied by the other meter. So it's equal to 16 meter squared. So this is the area of the first square. Let's go to the second shape. The second shape is also a square, so we're going to have to find the area of a square, which is equal to s squared. The shape is a simple square with 2 meters, 2 meters. Well, it's 2. All of it is a 2 by 2 because this is 2 and this is 2. So the area is just simply going to be equal to, let's call this area 2. Let's call these area 1, so there's no confusion later on. Area 2, this is shape 2 over here. Area 2 is equal to 2 squared, with 2 meters squared, which is equal to 4 meters squared. 2 meters all squared, which is equal to 4 meters squared. الحين we found both areas. We found this is the large square and the small square. All we have to do is add them up in this case. So the area total is equal to area 1 plus area 2. which is equal to area 1 is 16 meters squared plus area 2 is equal to 4 meters squared. So the final answer will be 20 meters squared for the area. Any questions? Does that make sense? How I found the areas? So I split them into halves, you know. Basic concept, very straightforward. You split them into smaller, simpler shapes. Once you split them into simpler shapes, you look at the areas that you are trying to find, or you look at the shapes you're trying to find the areas of that you already know. We know the area of a simple square, of a simple rectangle. After doing that, we find each area of each shape, and then we just add them up to find your final area. Any questions? Remember, area is always meters squared, and perimeter is always in meters or centimeters or whatever the given is. Okay, since I think everyone understood the concept, let me just move on then to a bit more complicated shape. Still a simple shape actually, but a different concept. Again, the question was find the perimeter and find the area. We will do the exact same steps that we did earlier, exact same steps, nothing will change. But there's one for the perimeter at least, even for the area, but there's going to be a small difference we'll see later on in the area. Now, let's start again with the perimeter. Just give me 1 second. I need to drink water. My voice is going. Okay, sorry about that. So let's find the perimeter. نفس الشيء, exact same thing we did before. How do we find perimeter? We look at the known sides. We'll start with this 10. We are given this is 10 meters. Okay, we know that this is 12. So I'm highlighting the sides that we have. We don't have this side. We have the 3 meters. We don't have this side. We have the 2 meters. And we have the 7. And we don't have this side. So we don't have this side. We don't have this side. And we don't have this side. So the red, the blue, and the green, we don't have these and we need to find them. Let me start with the easy ones, which are blue and green. If you notice, let me remove just the highlights of the known sides, so there's no confusion. If we're looking at the blue is equal to this blue. صح ولا لا? Because it's opposite to it and it's exactly the same size, exactly same shape. So we already found out the first side. The blue is 7 meters. So it's done. We're done with the blue. Let's look at the green. The green outside is equal to this side. Logically, you can even see it because it like forms somewhat of a square or rectangular shape, so they have to be equal. So because this side is equal to this side, like the green are equal to each other, we can straightforward say that this is 10 meters. So we already found 2 of our sides. The green and the blue are done. Now it's the red side. The red side, what is opposite to the red side? It's this long 12 over here. Let me just redraw it so we can go through it by itself. So again, the given sides, we found that this is 7 meters, and we found that this is 10 meters. Okay, now we're looking just at this side, this red side over here. That's the last perimeter we need to find. It is opposite to this yellow side over here, this 12 meters, this full shape over here. Okay, but here we don't have a very straightforward way of seeing it, so let's split the shapes a little bit so it can help us out. So let's draw a line, a straight line here, and a straight line here, so we can slowly figure it out. And let's draw the big line, the entire line over here. Okay, this is the start of the line, this is the end of the line, so we know that this is 12. This is our first cut, this is our second cut. Okay, We know that the red part from the top is over here. This is the red part. So this is our x, you could say. We don't know what this is. Now let's look at this blue part over here. From the first cut to the second cut. This is equal to this side over here, which we already know it's given to us as 2 meters. So we know that this is 2 meters. This blue is 2 meters. And now let's look at this part, which is equal to this part. Let me erase the yellow عشان ما يكون في confusion. Which is equal to this part. صح ولا لا? Logically, this is equal to this side from here, from the cut, because we cut it into a simple rectangle. So this side is going to be equal to this side. This side, we already know it's equal to 3 meters. So this is going to be 3 meters. And we know that this entire place, this entire thing, is equal to each other, which is 12 meters. We know that the full side is 12 meters. So if we want to write an equation, x plus 2 plus 3 has to be equal to 12. So if we take the 2 and the 3 to the other side, okay, it's going to be 12 minus 2 minus 3. X is equal to 12 minus 5. X is equal to 7 meters. Simple. So we found out that x is equal to 7 meters. So now we know that since this is equal to 7 meters, this part it has to be equal to 7 meters up to the cut. And this top part over here is also equal to 7 meters. So we found our last size. Now we have found all our sides. We have found all the sides that we need to find the perimeter. Found that this was 7 meters. We found that this was 10 meters. And we found out that this is also 7 meters. And now we just write the perimeter equation and go step by step. Start from here, 10 plus 12 plus 10 plus 3 plus 7 plus 2 plus 7 plus 7. Again, I'm going to repeat how I did this. So I started 10, the first side, plus 12 plus 10 plus 3 plus 7 plus 2 plus 7 plus 7. So this is the perimeter of the shape. It's the outside edges of the shape. This all in a calculator, it's going to be equal to something. I'm not sure. Okay? Makes sense? Any questions about what I did here? Just get out my calculator real quick. So it's 10 plus 12 plus 10 plus 3 plus 7 plus 2 plus 7 plus 7. I got 58 meters. Meters. Make sure it's in meters. It's not going to be meters squared. Perimeter is always in meters. Now, let's move on to the area. For the area, okay, we already knew from finding the perimeter that this is equal to 7 meters, and this is equal to 7 meters, and this is equal to 10 meters. Okay? What we can do, okay, we can do the exact same split as we did last time. Okay? This is fine, and there's nothing wrong with this. Okay, you could do this. This is going to be your first area, this is going to be your second area, and this is going to be your third area. And then you just add area 1 plus area 2 plus area 3. Okay, and you'll find your total area. You can do that. Okay, but there's a different and faster method in this case when like a shape is given like this and you can see a missing part in it. So instead of doing it this method, which we did basically for the last part or the last question, I'm going to take the full area, area 1. My area 1 is going to be this full area over here, the full square, or not, it's not a square, the full rectangle, sorry. Okay, I'm going to take the area 1 as the full rectangle, this whole thing. This will be my area 1. And my area 2 will be this missing piece, this missing part inside, which is also a rectangular shape. Okay? This missing piece over here, I will call my area 2. Okay? Now, let's go into finding the areas. So area 1, this is area, and we're trying to find the area now. Area 1 is rectangle, so it's equal to length times width. Very simple, area of a rectangle. So area 1 is going to be equal to, what's the length over here? It's 12 meters times 10 meters. Because this is the rectangle, the full shape. If we're looking at the full shape, this is how it looks like. This is 12, and this is 10. So the area is 12 times 10, which is 120 meters. If we look at the area of this part of the green shaded area now, the area 2, area 2 is equal to, it's also a rectangle, so it's a rectangle, so it's equal to length times width. The shape is like this, where this side is 2 meters. We know that this side is 2 meters over here, and we know that the width of it is 7 meters, so the length is 2 meters and the width is 7 meters. So area 2 is simply equal to 7 times 2, or 2 times 7, it's the same thing, which is 14 meters. Now we need to find the total area, the A total, okay, of this shape. Excuse me. So the area total in this case is going to be A1, but instead of adding, we have a gap here. So the green part, we are trying to remove this area from the total area. Yani if we're looking at this square over here, we're trying to delete this part. We're trying to remove it so it can be the exact same shape. So it will be converted into this shape. So we have to remove that area. To remove, we don't add. What do? We subtract. So we subtract A2. Because we're removing the area. It isn't there. This area is not there. We have the full complete rectangle area, and then we're removing the part that is empty, that has nothing inside. So A1 minus A2. We know that A1 is equal to 120 meters squared, again, squared. This is 7 meters into 2 meters, so it's squared. 120 meters minus 14 meters squared. Okay, so this is equal to 106 meters squared. And that's it. We found the total area. Again, this method, you have to understand it because there are some cases where you have to do it this way, where you have to remove the empty part. You could, in this case, specifically in this question, split it into 3 rectangles, or it will be 1 rectangle, I believe, 2 rectangles and 1 square, or whatever. Yani split it here, put a line and put a line, and then add the 3 shapes. You can completely do that. Nothing wrong with that. That's completely correct. But you should understand also this method, as it's faster, it's easier, and in some cases you have to do it using this method. Any questions about this? Anyone not sure? Anyone confused? Anyone needs help with that? No? Okay. Let us go on to another question then. If you see in 1A, 1A and 1C, they're very similar questions. You guys can do that. You should be able to do that with the same concepts. Let's move on to this question, which is 2A. Okay. So again, find the perimeter, and if possible, and the area, use pi to be equal to 3.14. 3.14. So keep in mind that whenever we use pi in our calculations of area or circumference or whatever, we have to put 3.14 and not the pi in the calculator, because the question asks us to do that. And also one more thing, it says round your answer to the nearest whole number. Nearest whole number, what does that mean? So if you have an answer which is 5.356, we need to round to the, or 125 for example, 0.356, we need to round to this number. So we're going to be looking at the number after it, in this case the 3. Is it less than 5? It is, so the answer will be 125 for example. This is rounding to the nearest whole number. The whole number basically means a number, the number right before the decimal. So let's start solving the question. First step is perimeter. Okay. In this case, the perimeter is possible to find, but how do we find it? Let's look at the sides we have. So we have this to be equal to 21. So we have this, which is equal to 28. I'm gonna say we already have this as well, because I'm pretty sure all of you understand that this is 21 at this point. This is also 21 meters because it's equal to its opposite side. But we do not have these small parts over here. And we do not have the edge or circumference of the semicircle. Okay, so we need to find these two. Let's first start with the semicircle before going on to these two small red parts. So for the semicircle, so what is a semicircle? Semicircle is just half a circle. And when you have a full circle, you have a semicircle, which is half the circle. So all you have to do is, in this case, يعني نص دائرة يعني. So all you have to do here for a semicircle, so for a full circle, what is the perimeter? Or for a circle, we said it's called the circumference. It's 2 pi r. For a half circle or semicircle, C is going to be equal to pi r. You just divide this by 2. So it's basically dividing the full circle by 2. That's it. So, or it's equal to C full divided by 2. Okay, so this is C full, C half. Simple. So the circumference, you're just going to divide it by 2. The same thing you will do for the area, which we will see later on. For a semicircle, you just, because it's half, نص, you know, so you divide it by 2. You divide by 2 because it's simply half. So that's how you can find the perimeter of the circle. Keep in mind, this is for the outside part of the circle only. So يعني, we're only talking about the outside part. If we have, this is very important because I'm not sure if they're going to test you on this, but if you have a circle, a semicircle like this, and they tell you to find the perimeter, this equation is only to find this shaded part. That's it. It's only to find this shaded part. The perimeter here is not just the shaded part. You also have this part additionally. I'm not talking about this question that we're doing. I'm talking about in general the shape of a semicircle. And this side is equal to the diameter d. So you're going to do pi r plus d to find your full circumference, because this is pi r, this is pi r, okay, which is the circumference, or half the circumference you could say, and this is d. So the total perimeter, or in this case, it's going to be pi r plus d. It's not in the case of this question. In the case of this question, the circle is a part of the shape. We only want the outer edge. But if they ask you a question about a semicircle by itself, okay, you make sure you remember that you have to add the diameter to the perimeter, okay? It's not just going to be pi r, okay? This is just in the case of a semicircle by itself. It has nothing to do with the question, okay? Moving back to the question itself, so like I said, we can find C to be half of pi r. The radius of the circle is, make sure you know the difference between radius and diameter. The radius in this case is 8 meters. This 8 meters over here. This is r. So we know that r is equal to 8 meters. We can find the C half, which is equal to pi times r, which is equal to pi is 3.14 times r, which is 8, which is equal to 3.14 times 8, 25.12 meters. Okay, it's given in meters, so the answer is in meters. We're talking about perimeter and circumference. This is all in meters. So now we found this side. We have found this side. The blue part is 25.12 meters. What is left to find? It's the red part over here, the small red part over here. How can we do that? Now, let me just redraw this shape or copy paste it so I can show you. So we're looking at this red part over here. We know that this shape is opposite to this blue, or let's keep it blue. This full blue shape over here is equal to this full side over here. Okay, so let's draw the line. Let's draw the line underneath it from here to here. Okay, this is the end, this is the start, and this is fully 28 meters. This is our first cut, you could say. And this is our second cut, you could say. Okay, now we do not know the red part. What is the red part? The red part is this, and the red part is this. We know that they are equal to each other, but we do not know their value. So let's call them x. They are both x. We don't know what the value of them are. Okay? But this green part in the middle, okay, let me just erase the blue shade so you can see it a bit clear. This green part in the middle, we already know what this is. This is the diameter of the circle. صح ولا لا? It's the diameter. Or you could say it's two of the radiuses, because from here, from this point up until here, this is the radius, r. And from this point up till here, this is also the radius r of the semicircle. So we can say that, the green part is 2r or d, which is equal to 2 times 8, which is equal to 16 meters. This is for this green side over here. So the green side, we found out that it is 16 meters. Okay? And we know that the total side is 28. So now all we have to do is solve for x. How will we write the equation? X plus 16 plus x is equal to 28. Let's take the 16 to the other side. We're going to have 2x on one side. I'm grouping the x's. Is equal to 28 minus 16. 2x is equal to 12. X divide by 2 both sides. Okay, the 2's will cancel here. 12 over 2 is equal to 6 meters. So now we know that this is 6 meters and this is 6 meters. And now we can find the perimeter. To find the perimeter, let's just write all the values that we found. We found out that we know that this is 21 meters. We know that this is 25.12, which is the circumference, or the circumference of a semicircle. And we know that this is 6 meters and this is 6 meters. And now we could just plug it all in to find the equation of the final perimeter, which is equal to 21 plus 28 meters plus 21 meters plus 6 meters plus 25.12 meters plus 6 meters. All right, I'll just recap. 21 meters plus 28 meters plus 21 meters plus 6 meters plus 25.12 meters, and then plus the last 6 meters, and this is the perimeter. Plug it in all in the calculator. So we'll do 21 plus 28 plus 21 plus 6 plus 25.12 plus 6. We're going to get 107.12 meters. Keep in mind the question said round to the nearest whole number. So it's going to be equal to 100 The 1 over here is less than 5, so it's going to be 107 meters. The 25.12 is from finding the circumference of half a circle. So the circumference for half a circle or a semicircle is equal to 2 pi r divided by 2. The circumference of a full circle divided by 2. Okay? So we know that the radius is r, which is 8 meters. Okay? And then we just multiplied by pi. In the question it said pi is equal to 3.14. We find 25.12, and that will be our circumference of the semicircle. Tamam. Okay. Any questions about the perimeter before we move on to the area? Okay. Now we are talking about areas. Area is very straightforward. We're going to split this into 2 parts. Part number 1. Part number 1 is going to be the rectangle at the bottom. Okay. So this is going to be our first part. And then the second part will be the semicircle at the top. So this part over here. Okay. So let's call this 2. And let's call this 1. And let's start solving. So in other words, it's this shaded area. Okay, the shaded area over here, plus the shaded area of the bottom part of the rectangle. Okay, let's start with the rectangle. 1, it's an area of a rectangle. So it's length times width. The rectangle is 28 by 21 meters. So A1 is equal to 21 times 28, 21 meters times 28 meters. Area 1 is equal to 21 times 28 is 588 meters. Okay, simple. Area 2, it's an area of a semicircle or a half circle. So we know that the area of a full circle area is equal to pi r squared. Area of a half circle will be just full circle divided by 2. So half circle or semicircle is pi r squared divided by 2. Very simple, because we just divided by 2. It's not going to be a full circle, so it's going to be half the circle. And now we know that we know that the radius is 8 meters. This radius over here, radius is 8 meters. So to find area 2, it's equal to pi, which is 3.14, times the radius squared, which is 8 squared, divided by 2. This is going to be 8 meters. So 8 meters squared times 3.14 divided by 2 is equal to 100.48 meters. Okay? Meters squared. This is area. Meters squared. Okay? Now, we found area 1. We found area 2. We just have to add them up. Area 1, or the area total, A total, is equal to area 1 plus area 2, which is equal to area 1 is 588. Okay, 588 meters squared plus 100.48 meters squared. Okay. Put that into the calculator, you're going to get 688.48 meters squared. The question said we need the answer to be rounded to a whole number. We look at the 4 over here. Is it less than 5? Yes, it is. So it's just going to stay as 688 meters squared. And that's your final answer. Any questions about this before moving on? Okay, excellent. We will take, we're at the halfway mark. I think we've completed an hour and 30 minutes. We will take a 10-minute break and we will come back. I will try to complete as many questions as I can, do more examples, and we'll go into the word problems as well after this. So 10 minutes break, be back at 3:40. I mean, I did say break, but I'm gonna be here يعني if you guys have questions. It's fine. الإشكال اللي داخل أشكال مطلوبة. What do you mean يعني الأشكال اللي داخل أشكال؟ I'm not sure what شو مطلوب شو مو مطلوب. I'm going to do everything يعني that I see in the worksheets, and that's pretty much it. So if it's in the worksheet, I'm just gonna assume yes, you have to do it. I'm just gonna assume. You mean like this one يعني number 4? Yeah, these I'm pretty sure they're gonna bring questions like these, and we're gonna cover these inshallah بعد. It's very easy, straightforward, nothing complicated about it. Tomorrow's session, I'll be covering 10 and week 10 and week 11. It will not be an open session. I'll have to cover those concepts. So I don't have any open sessions that are planned. Sarah, I believe, has one of the sessions. I'm not sure which date, but she has one of the sessions that will be open. I believe Sarah sent an email to everyone that's doing math. You should an email with all the session timings and all the links and all of that. So it should be, and you should have it in your email. Recordings, as soon as I'm done with the session, it should be automatically uploaded through Teams, so it will be available on Teams instantly. But on YouTube, I'm gonna upload it after I'm done with when I'm done with the session, until I process it and all of that, and I'll upload it. For tomorrow's session there's no requirement for any booking أو حجز أو أي شيء كذي يعني it's going to be open for everyone that wants to join. Will she be continuing from where you stopped, or do we need to join other sessions as well, like Sarah's session? No, Sarah's sessions are gonna be she's doing her own routine in her own way. I'm not sure how she's doing it. And the other Faisal Senate session as well, he's doing it in his own way. So everyone's session is different than the others. So we're all covering the same concepts, but in our own way and in different way. So the continuation for Sarah's session is not necessarily the same continuation for my session. And she's not going to continue where I finished, basically. I will be continuing where I finished tomorrow, inshallah. I'm going to be, like I said, finishing week 9 today. And tomorrow tomorrow I'm going to be doing weeks 10 and 11, and I'll finish those off. Yes, my session will be tomorrow from 2 to 5, same time. Okay, let us continue. So someone just pointed out to me that in the solutions here what they did is they rounded twice. So basically they rounded the 688.48. They first rounded it to this, so it became 688.5, and then they rounded again, so it became 689 meters squared. These are two different methods of rounding. This is more accurate, but usually this is the correct way of rounding like large numbers. So just if you can, double check with your tutor, see what they prefer. But both answers are correct depending on the rounding method you do. All right. But in my case, I usually do the rounding in this way. Now, let's just move on to the next question. So let's do part B. Actually, part B is very similar to part A. It's just instead of a rectangle, it's a triangle. Let's go to part C. And if we have time, we can circle back to it. Let's do part C. So in part C, first step, we need to find perimeter and area. That's the question. Okay. So in the first step is perimeter. Perimeter, let's see what we have. We have this side, which is 4 meters. And all the other sides we do not have. So let's look at the first side. The first side, which will be this red side over here. This red side is very simply equal to this, because this triangle is an equal triangle, or an isosceles, because the sides are equal, because the right angle is coming right down the center. So this is where the right angle is. It's coming right down in the middle because it's connected to a circle. So simply, we can basically say this is also equal to 4 meters. Okay. Now, when the height is coming straight down from the middle and the perpendicular height, that means the sides are going to be equal. Okay, like when it's coming right in the middle. So basically, in other words, this side is equal to this side. Okay. And in this case, they are equal because remember that this is a circle. So this is the radius r, which is 2 meters. It is given down here. And this is also 2 meters. So because they are equal, the bases, these sides have to be equal to 4 meters. They have to be equal to each other, basically. Okay. So we found our first side. Now let's look at this circle itself. The circle, to find the perimeter of the circle, or the circumference, it's the same concept we did earlier. This is a semicircle. The perimeter of a semicircle is, perimeter for a semicircle is equal to the circumference, or half the circumference of a full circle, which is equal to 2 pi r divided by 2 equal to pi r, because the 2's cancel. So area, or perimeter of the semi, is equal to pi. Pi in the question was given as 3.14 times r. R is equal to 2 meters. So the perimeter is 6.28 meters. Simple. Now we found the perimeter of the semicircle, which is 6.28 meters. And now we have all the sides. Simply, we can just find the perimeter directly now. Perimeter is equal to first side, 4 meters, plus second side, which is also 4 meters, plus 6.28 meters, which is equal to 4 and 4 is 8, 8 and 6 is 14.28 meters. Done. But remember, the question is asking us to round to the nearest whole number. We're going to look at, so we need to look at the 14 and the number after it. The number after it is less than 5, so it's 14 meters. All right. Or if they're using the other technique, the more accurate technique, they're going to round the 2 Okay, and it's going to be 14.3, which again, if you round, it's also going to be 14 meters, so it's the same thing. Okay, now let's look at the areas now. The perimeter is very straightforward. Let's look at the area for the shape. The area for the shape. So we have two parts. The first part, which is the triangle. Okay, we have this triangle here. And we have the semicircle at the bottom. Okay, so area 1, A1, area of triangle, which is equal to base times height over 2. Area 1 is equal to, or before that, let's just draw the triangle. Triangle is here. This is your perpendicular height. So your height is 3 meters. And your base, how can we find the base? Like I showed you guys earlier, the base of this is the radius, so this is 2 meters. And this is also the radius, which is 2 meters. So the total base is going to be 2 plus 2, which is equal to 4 meters. Or it's the diameter, which is equal to 4 meters. Okay? So the diameter is equal to 4 meters. Or the base is also equal to 4 meters. Now, if we just plug into the equation, the base is 4 meters times the height, which is 3 meters, divided by 2. So it's equal to 12 divided by 2 meters squared, which is equal to 6 meters squared. Okay? 4 times 3 is 12. 12 divided by 2, that gives us 6. We found the area for the first shape. The second shape, it's similar to what we did before. Semicircle, so A2 is equal to area of semicircle, which is equal to pi r squared divided by 2, because it's half the area of a full circle. So area 2 is going to be equal to 3.14 times r squared, which was 2, yeah, 2 squared divided by 2. So this is going to be equal to 3.14 times 2, which is equal to, it's times 4 divided by 2, which is equal to 6.28 meters squared. Or you could just plug it into the calculator and you'll get that answer, okay? Because this is 2 meters, so this will become meters squared. Now we found area 1, area 2. Area total is simply just adding both areas. So A total is going to be equal to A1 plus A2, which is equal to 6 plus 6 meters squared plus 6.28 meters squared, which is going to be equal to 12.28 meters squared. Again, you have to round to the nearest whole number, which is going to be 12 meters squared. And that's it. We found the perimeter, and we found the area. Any questions about this part? For part B, it's very similar. It's the same thing. You're going to be finding the thing. The difference is the triangle is just half the shape, half the size. So the base is going to be just the radius and not the diameter. You're given the height, you're given the sides, you're given everything. You can find the perimeter, you can find the area in the exact same method. Let's go to part D. بس لما حلو المفروض it should be the same answer. If you're getting a different answer, that means the technique you are using or the method you are doing is wrong. So make sure you see the steps that I did, compare it with the steps that you have done, and see where you might have gone wrong, where your mistake is, because it has to be the exact same answer. You cannot get a different answer. The area will always be equal, like no matter what method you use, and the perimeter should be the same as well. Now, Let's move on to part D. Let's look at the perimeter first. So perimeter. The perimeter here can be a little bit confusing, especially that they are not giving us any dimensions. We can find this dimension, even though it's not given. We can find, but the other two dimensions here, this one and this one, you will not be able to find them at your level because you have to use the Pythagoras theorem that you remember from school, but they don't expect that from you in foundation level. So in the question, it said find the perimeter if possible. For your level in this case, we don't have to find the perimeter because we cannot find these two sides specifically. So we'll just go directly to the area. Okay, so let's go to the area directly and start analyzing this whole question. Now, there are so many different ways you can do this, so many different multiple ways you can solve and find the area here. I'm going to do one of the methods that I believe should be the easiest for most of you. And yeah, and you can do it like in whatever way you want. So my first step would be just splitting here, cutting this, making this into a square or rectangle or whatever it is, we'll find out. I'm gonna cut this over here as well, so I can get a triangle. And then this is just a trapezoid, okay? So I'll have three shapes here. I'll have a trapezoid, I'll have a triangle, and I'll have the, actually, I don't even need to do this, but let's see. I could do this in two trapezoids, but you know what? I'll do it this way. I'll keep it this way. Okay, this is the way I want to do it. You can do it in any shape that you are familiar with. Yani if you feel like, oh, I don't know how to solve with the trapezoid, it looks confusing, just go and cut this into another triangle and solve that way. Have four shapes and add them, okay? But for the sake of just, you know, solving it using a trapezoid to show you how it's done, I'll use the trapezoid. So I have three areas. I have this first area over here. Okay. I have the second area over here, which is the triangle. And I have the third area, which is the square up top. Okay? Actually, let's start with the square because it's simple, or we don't know if it's a square or a rectangle yet. So what do we need to know? We're missing one dimension. We're missing this dimension over here. We're missing the dimension up here, or my dimension down here. So we have to look at the opposite side, as that will make it much easier. Now, step by step, follow every step by step so you don't get too confused, okay? You will go step by step. First, we'll draw the line of this full shape. Let's draw it from here. Wait till here. This is the start. This is the end. Now, if you notice, the first issue you could say we have is that we don't even have the full dimension of this shape. But we know that this over here is the X value, or the highlighted yellow part that we don't know. This is our X. Okay? Just 1 second. Let me just check and see everything. 15. Okay. I see. شوي خربط روحي. Give me a second. Let me just double check and see all the sides. 13. Okay. We have 5. We have 15. We have 8, which is the height. This is 8. This is 8. 13, 15. This is going to be 2. مخي شوي قفل. If anyone sees something that I'm not noticing, it's okay, just let me know because I'm trying to figure it out and مخي مقفل completely. I don't know why. I want to see if there's a different way to do this. I think there might actually be a dimension missing here. I think. And I'm trying to find out if any other possible ways of solving this exists. لأن we cannot consider this, I'll tell you why we cannot consider this as a parallelogram. We are not sure of these sides, if يعني based on the shape, this size is much, يعني the angle of it is larger, يعني this side and this side are not parallel. So I'm trying to see if there is something wrong with the question or if the مخي أنا بس مضروب. And usually it's straightforward. Yeah, but in your assumption, you're assuming that it's a parallelogram, right? Abdullah? In your assumption, you're assuming that this is a parallelogram. That's the thing. إذا تلاحظون من بس الشيب. Yeah, if I want to do that, yeah, of course I can solve it. It's much easier. But if you notice, if I draw a straight line here, these two lines are not parallel. Eventually they're going to meet. It's not a parallelogram. And in a parallelogram, okay, these lines will always be parallel. They will never meet. In the assumption of this is a parallelogram, yes, we can easily solve it. We don't need to overcomplicate it. So let's, for now, the trapezium, if for a trapezium, we're going to need to be given an extra dimension. We don't have enough dimensions. لأن ما عندنا side that is parallel. ففي trapezium, we can do يعني in a trapezium, in this case, what will we do? If we take the bottom side as a trapezoid, okay, our trapezium, زين, it's something like this. Yes, we are given the bases, 15, 13, and we're given the height to be 8 inches. So we could just find the area here, easy. But then the issue will be the square up here. Because this distance, we have no idea what this distance is because there isn't enough information. So because of that case, I will just solve this as if it's a parallelogram. Like, for example, if they tell us that this is a square, okay, it's fine, because we could just assume that this is equal to 5, which I believe should be the case. I believe that should be the case. But it's not given. يعني مو معطينا في السؤال. So I cannot يعني just make an assumption because clearly you can tell that this over here, this distance is not equal to this distance. So it cannot be a parallelogram because this is 2 inches. That's right. لأن it's shifting 2 inches to the right. لأن من هني لين هني كامل 15 فهني بس باقي 13. So on this side, it's much more than 2 inches. So I'm going to assume that this is just a square. This is an assumption I am making because the picture is not clear and they didn't give us enough information. Because they didn't give us enough information, I will assume that they mean that this is a square because that's the shape it looks like. Okay, so I'm going to do it. The way I'm going to solve it is that it is basically a square. The top shape given is a square and not a rectangle. Okay, so square. Assume it's a square. لأن we made this assumption now when we split this shape like this. Okay, what can we say? We can say that this is also 5 inches because it's a square. All of these sides are going to be 5 inches. All right. And now we can just solve it simply using 2 shapes or 3 or 4, depending on if you want to use the trapezium or you want to use triangles. على راحتكم. All works. I'm going to do it just using the trapezoid or the trapezium and a square. So again, let me highlight the areas. Sorry for the confusion earlier. So let's highlight this as the first area and let's highlight this, all of it, as the second area. Okay. This thing is the first area and this is the second area. So this is area 1 and this is area 2. Because we assumed it's a square, so we already know that the area 1 is going to be a square. Area for square. Area for a square is basically equal to side squared. The side is equal to 5 inches. And the square we have, because it's 5 inches each side. The 5 inches, so the area 1 is equal to 5 squared, 5 inches squared, which is equal to 25 inches squared. Okay, moving on to area 2, area of a trapezium. So area 2 is area of a trapezoid for trapezoid. For a trapezium. The area for a trapezium, if you guys remember, it's A plus B times H divided by 2. Let me just double check and make sure that's correct, just so I don't make mistakes, because I don't use that area a lot. Yes, A plus B times H divided by 2, where A and B are the bases of the trapezium. In this case, it is not 13 inches and 15 inches, okay? I will show you why now. Let me just draw it. So if we draw just the trapezium, something like this. So this is 15 inches. We know that much. We know that the perpendicular height, the perpendicular height is 8 inches, because that's given over here. But this top base is 13 plus 5. This is 13 plus 5, because it's the full thing from this point over here all the way to this point over here. So it's going to be equal to 18 inches. Okay. So now we could just plug into the equation. So A2 is equal to, our A value is 15 plus our B value, A or B, doesn't matter which one's A, which one's B, plus 18 times H, which is 8, all divided by 2. So area 2, if you plug in into the calculator, it's 15 plus 18 times 8 divided by 2. That's 132 meters or inches squared. 132 inches squared. And that's it. And now you find area 1, the total area, A total, which is equal to A1 plus A2, which is equal to 25 inches squared plus 132 inches squared, which is equal to 157 inches squared. ليش 18? Again, I will repeat why this is 18. If we look at this blue shaded area over here, this is 5 inches, right? So the trapezoid, the 13 inches is only until the square, where the square starts, but the full size of the trapezoid is from the beginning to the end of the point. So this shaded part here is 5. And let's say this yellow shaded part over here is 13. So this is the yellow shaded part. Okay? That's why. So we have to add both. And if you notice, if I draw a line like this, okay, the 13 is till this line over here. This line over here. So technically even, yani, the shaded part is not going to be full. This shaded part here is the 13, and this blue shaded part is the 5. That's why it's 18, and that's why we added them. Okay? Any other questions? Again, I made the assumption that this is a square. Okay? Some people solved it assuming that this is a parallelogram. في حالة الامتحان, or in the case of the quiz, just double check with the professor to make sure if I'm pretty sure that it's going to be much more clearer than this, but just double check, tell them, sir, is this a square or not? لأن it should be mentioned in the question if the sizes or the dimensions are not given. And usually in a square, they only give one dimension. If it's a rectangular shape, they'd usually give 2. So that's why I made the assumption that this is a square, and I solved as if the area is a square. And I believe the solution is correct because in the answers as well, they gave the total as square. So based on the answer, they they basically meant that this shape is a square and this is not a parallelogram. This is clearly not a parallelogram. Very clear, like I showed you, because the sides are not parallel. Any questions about this? About the method I used to solve? Anything not clear? Let's move on a bit to a more complicated shape. The question here says, find the perimeter again, if possible, and the area. Okay, let's start with this one. Just before I move on, Hassan, the way you solve that one is exactly the same way I solved all the previous ones. You will just split it into those shapes. You will identify your perimeters and areas. You will split it either into 3 shapes or, yeah, you'll most probably split it into 3 shapes, and then you will start solving. Just very quickly, Ashan, everyone just sees, this is the question you sent. Okay, you will split it here, and you will split it here. This is going to be your area 1, area 2, area 3. They are simple shapes. You will add them all up, and you'll find your total area. Same thing for the perimeter. You're going to look at the sides and the opposite sides, and then you're going to compare, and you will find out the sides. Same thing for the bottom. You're going to look at the top side and this side, and you will split them all. Again, step by step. It looks confusing very quickly, but it's the exact same concepts we covered. So it's nothing new. It's a very simple shape. Okay. Now, let's move on to this question. So again, find the perimeter if possible and the area of each composite shape, and then round your answer to the nearest whole number again and use pi as 3.14. Now, here, again, don't get scared. The difference here is there's just an extra shape usually, or it just looks a bit scarier, but it's very straightforward, very simple. You go step by step, split it into shapes you know, and you should be fine. Here you can see, first let's start with the perimeter. So for the perimeter, okay, for the perimeter, we're going to look at the sides. This side, we have this side, just 2 feet. The circular one we're going to find, we already have this side, which is 6 feet. We don't have this side, but we will find it out now, and we don't have the top side. But straightforward, before even doing anything, we can figure it out very easily because this is a symmetrical shape. So let me just delete these. So for this side is going to be equal to this side, because this shape is exactly the same but symmetrical on the middle line. So what that means is a shape on the top is the exact same shape on the bottom but flipped, because it has the exact same dimensions. So this will be 6 feet. Okay, this will be 2 feet. Why? Again, because it's just flipped from here. This is 2 feet. So this is going to be 2 feet. And the circle, again, it's the same size. It says 1.5 feet here radius. So this circle will also have 1.5 feet radius. So from the center to any side, this is the radius r, which is equal to 1.5 feet. Okay, to find the perimeter of the or the circumference of a semicircle, it's equal to pi r, which is equal to pi 3.14 times the r given, which is 1.5 feet. So it's equal to 1.5 times 3.14, 4.71, 4.71 feet. Okay, so we found out that this is 4.71 feet, and this is 4.71 feet. And now we could just find the perimeter very quickly, directly, easily. Perimeter is just the sum of the outer edges. So let's start from here, 2 feet plus 4.71 feet plus 6 feet plus 2 feet plus 4.71 feet plus 6 feet. 4.71 feet here and the 6 feet here. And that's your perimeter. put it all in the calculator. Your perimeter will be equal to 2 plus 4.71 plus 6 plus 2 plus 4.71 plus 6 is 25.42 feet. Okay? Now, if we move on to the area, it's very straightforward. Let's move on to the area. Before we move on to the area, obviously, we need to do some rounding here to the nearest number, to the whole number. Rounding again, you just look at the second number here. So 42, because it says to the whole number. So you look at this, is it less than 5? Yes, it is. So P is equal to 25 feet. Done. Let's move on to area. For the area, we have some pieces we need to assemble or break down, then reassemble again. So what are the pieces we have? First, we have the semicircles, okay? Because the areas of the semicircles are equal, we just have to do the calculation once, which is this semicircle here and this semicircle here. So let's call this area 1, and this is area 2. But we know that A1 is equal to A2, so we just have to do the calculation once. Again, the same thing for this shape over here, the trapezoid. Okay. We have this shape over here, shape 3. And the same thing at the bottom here. Okay, this is shape 4. And we know that A3 is equal to A4. Okay, so let's start with A1 and A2. A1 and A2 is equal to the area of semicircle. Area of a semicircle we already saw. So A1 equal A2 is equal to pi r squared divided by 2, which is equal to 3.14 times 1.5 squared divided by 2. So area 1 is equal to area 2, which is equal to 3.14 times 1.5 squared divided by 2. That is 3.5325 feet squared, or square feet. Remember that this is just for like one area and one area, so we're going to have to use it twice later on, and I will show you how. But let's first find the area of the trapezoid. Area, so this is for trapezoid. Trapezoid, the area of a trapezoid is A plus B times H all over 2. A plus B, what is our A, what is our B? If we draw the shape, let's draw the shape first. Okay, we can either draw the upper shape or the bottom shape. They're equal, they're just in different directions, but it's the same thing. So this is the shapes we have. Okay, so we need this side, which we already found out that this was 6 feet. And we already found out that this is 2 feet. We just have one more side that we need to find out, which is the total bottom side over here. So if we look at, if we draw the line of this, the center part, from here to here. Okay, if we draw the line and we draw where it's cut, this is the line, the full line. Okay, and this is where it's being cut. We know that this is 2 feet. This 2 feet is equal to this 2 feet. And we know that this over here is equal to 6 feet, which is equal to this 6 feet. So we know that this is 2 and 6. So we know that this is 2 feet and this is 6 feet. So what's the total side? Because we want the full green line. So the full line is 2 plus 6, which is equal to 8 feet. So this full line over here is 8 feet. So that is our B value or our A value. if we go back to our solving, we found out that we know that this is 6 feet, and we know that this is 8 feet. We're looking at the top shape, so we know that this is 6 feet, and we know that this bottom part is now 8 feet. And we need the perpendicular height. The perpendicular height is here. This is the perpendicular height, which is given to us as 2 feet. And that's it. And now we can solve where A3 is equal to A4, and they're both equal to A plus B, which is 6 plus 8 or 8 plus 6, it doesn't matter, times height, which is 2, divided by 2. So A3 equal to A4 is equal to 6 plus 8, which is 14 feet squared, because we're multiplying. Okay? Now, we found our A1s and 2s, we found our A3s and 4. The total area, keep in mind, of this shape is 1 plus 2 plus 3 plus 4. So we have to add all of these up. So again, total area is equal to 1, A1 plus A2 plus A3 plus A4, which is equal to, what is A1? A1 was 3.5325. So 3.5325 plus A2 is also 3.5325 feet squared. Plus A3, what is A3? 14 feet squared. Plus A4, what is A4? Again, 14 feet squared. So A total is going to be equal to, just add all of these up, 3.5325 plus 3.5325 plus 14 is going to be equal to 35.065 feet squared. Rounding to the whole number is going to be 35, because we have a 0 there, feet squared. Clear? Is this clear? Question? Easy? Okay, I'm just going to assume that all of you find it very super easy and have no questions. Okay, again, I'm just going to recap step by step. Always go step by step. Same exact procedure we did for every other question. Simplify them to simple shapes that we know for the perimeter. Look at the sides opposite to the side you're trying to solve for. For the area, split them into shapes that are easy to solve for. Once you solve for that shape, add them all up or subtract depending on the situation or the question given, and you will find your final answer. Now, let's do one more question from here. Let's go for part D. So for part D, we have 3 shapes again. So what are the 3 shapes? We have a triangle. We have a quarter of a circle in this case, not a semicircle, but a quarter of a circle. And we have what looks like a square. Okay? Now, to solve this, again, I'm gonna assume that this is a square because the circle looks like it's gonna connect here. So this is definitely going to be a square. And we're gonna first solve for the perimeter. Let's solve for the perimeter step by step. So perimeter, look at the sides we have. We have 26. The other side has to also be 26 because this is cutting it right in the middle. This side is equal to this side because this is 10 inches. This is 10 inches because this is the radius from the center to the edge. Okay, so this is also 10 inches. And this is also 10 inches because this is a square. So this is cutting it in half, so this is 26 inches. Since this is a square, this is 10 inches. The bottom part is also 10 inches. Okay? Just give me a second. Okay, so we have 26 inches, 26 inches, 10 inches, 10 inches. The only missing part is this part over here. The shaded part, which is a quarter of a circle, the circumference of it. Exact same concept that we did before. Circumference of a full circle is equal to 2 pi r. So circumference of a quarter of a circle, quarter. And now we're dividing by 4. So it's going to be 2 pi r divided by 4 because we want a quarter of it, which is equal to pi r over 2 if we simplify. Okay? So that's the circumference, and we'll do the exact same thing for the area later on. We just divide it by 4. So the C of the quarter is equal to pi, which is 3.14 times r, which is 10 inches, divided by 2, which is equal to 10 divided by 2 is 15.7 inches. Inches, not squared. This is circumference. So we found out that this is 15.7 inches. Okay? So 15.7 inches. Done. Now, okay. So if we want to find the perimeter, P is equal to 26 plus 26 plus 10 plus 10 plus 15.7. This is 26 plus 26 plus 10 plus 10 plus 15.7. Okay, just adding the sides. This is going to give us 26 plus 10 plus 10 plus 10, 15.7 is 87.7 inches. Okay. ضرب مخ الانجينيرنج شوي. It's inches, 87.7 inches. We found the perimeter. Now let's move on to the area. Area. So here, like I said earlier, we're going to have 3 shapes. We're going to have the triangle. We're going to have the square. And we're going to have the quarter of a circle. Okay? So how do we do this? Very straightforward, very simple, step by step, each part. Triangle, 1, area 4 of triangle, which is equal to base times height over 2. If we draw the triangle really quickly, this is 24 inches. And this, the bottom part. What is the bottom part? When we know that this is the radius times 2, so this is just 20. Again, how did we get this 20? If we look back at the perimeter, when we were looking at it, the shape of the perimeter, we know that this is 10 inches. We know that this is 10 inches. So the full base is 10 plus 10. So that's 20 because this is just simply the radius of the circle. So we found the base. Keep in mind, we do not use the 26 as the height. The height is the perpendicular height. So it has to form a perpendicular with the base of the triangle. So it's going to be 20 times 24 inches divided by 2, which is equal to, this is A1 obviously. So it's equal to 20 times 24 divided by 2, that's 240 inches squared. Is area, so it's squared. Now we move on to the second shape, which is, in this case, the square. So for the square, A of square is simply equal to side squared. If we draw it real quick, we know it's 10 inch each side. So area 2 is equal to 10 squared. Area 2 is equal to 100 inches squared. This is inches. Third shape, it is a quarter of a circle. Quarter circle area. So what is a full circle area? The full circle area, full is equal to pi r squared. So area is going to be equal to, for quarter, it's going to be equal to pi r squared divided by 4. Okay? So it's simply just pi r squared divided by 4, because we're just finding a quarter of the circle. If we go if we just see the radius, we have the radius, which is 10, and now we can solve for A3, which is for the quarter of a circle. 3.14 times r, the radius, which is 10 squared, divided by 4. A3 is equal to 103.14 divided by 4. That is 78.5 inches squared. And now we have our areas. We can just group them all together. So A total is equal to A1 plus A2 plus A3. A1 was equal to 240 inches squared, plus A2, which is equal to 100 inches squared, plus A3, which is equal to 78.5. 78.5 inches squared. You can put them all in the calculator and you will find your final answer. So 78.5 inches squared. So it is going to be 240 plus 100 plus 78.5, 418.5 inches squared. And that's it. We found the total area. We found the total perimeter and total area. ليش 20 وين 20 this 20 Amar. Okay, again we know that the radius is given at the bottom here to be 10 inches. What is the radius? From the center to any side of the triangle, of the circle, sorry. So from the center to this side of the circle is 10 inches. And we know that this shape is a square on the left. And we know that one side of it is 10 inches. So عندنا هني 10 inches وهني عندنا 10 inches. So the total base over here is going to be 10 plus 10, which is 20. Does that make sense? So for the triangle, the base of the triangle is going to be 20. Again, let's not forget we have to round here. So this is going to be 4, 1. We'll look at the 5. It's 5 or greater, yes. So the 9 has to be plus 1. So this becomes 419 inches squared after rounding. The rounding, always leave it to the end, like to the final answer, so that there is like عشان يكون more accurate, just for it to be more accurate. Any questions? Okay, moving on. Let us do the final question from worksheet 1, and then we'll get into the word problems. So the question says, find the shaded perimeter if possible, and shaded area between shapes of each of the below figure, rounding your answer to the nearest whole number and use pi equal to 3.14 if necessary. Right. How in quarter we divide by 2 and not by 4? We divided by 4. We divided by 4. It's pi r squared divided by 4. For the circumference, this full circumference is 2 pi r for the perimeter. 2 pi r. So for a quarter, we divided 2 pi r by 4. This is for a full circle, 2 pi r, صح? So we divide that by 4, it becomes 2 pi r divided by 4. 2 pi r divided by 4 is equal to pi r divided by 2. Does that make sense, Hassan? Because the equation, there's a 2 in the equation. 3c. Let's move on to 4 because we don't have much time and I want to be able to cover this concept. And if we do have some more time, we'll do it at the end. عشان we get into the word problems as well. But let's just look at it very quickly. 3c. 3c is exactly the same concept, but instead of a triangle, you have a rectangle. That's it. Exactly same concept. But instead of a triangle and a square, you have 2 rectangles. So you will solve this the exact same way we just solved this. The radius here is 4 meters because this is the radius going from this point to this point. So this is your radius, 4 meters. That's it. Exact same method for solving. Now, let's move on to this. Find the shaded perimeter if possible and shaded area between shapes of each of the below figure. Round your nearest number, nearest whole number, and 3.14 for pi. Easy. Let's start. Area here. We cannot find the perimeter directly, I can tell you that much, because we have to find, we don't have the slanted angle, the dimensions of it. So again, we will not be able to find the perimeter, but we can find the area. Let's dive right into that. So area. Now, we have two shapes. First shape is the outside triangle. Okay. Okay, we have the triangle outside. This is our area number 1. And our second shape is the small circle that is inside of the triangle. Okay. Now. Okay. So this is our area 2. We are given the dimensions everywhere. Let's start with the triangle. Find the full area of the triangle. We know that the area of a triangle A1 is going to be equal to base times height over 2. The triangle given, the height is 12 meters or 12 centimeters, and the base is 8 centimeters. So A1 is simply equal to 8 times 12 divided by 2. This we put in the calculator. It's going to give us 48 centimeters squared. Okay. If we go move on to area 2. Area 2 is for a circle, a full circle. So the area of a circle is pi r squared. This is going to be equal to pi. We are given pi, so we know what pi is. So pi is 3.14 times. What's the radius? I want you guys to answer me. What's the radius here? Remember that the radius is the distance from the center to the edge. That is the radius. They gave us the full dimension. The full dimension, the given dimension here, this full dimension is diameter. And we know that the diameter d is equal to 2 times the radius. So you have to divide, to find r, you just have to divide d by 2. So in this case, it's 4 divided by 2. R is equal to 2. Again, I will repeat. The dimension given in this shape is diameter. It's not the radius. But like I said earlier, we know that if we have the diameter, we can find the radius. It's just half the diameter, simply. It's half the diameter. So make sure you do not make this mistake by writing 4 instead of 2 here. Most of you understood that concept, which is great. Someone said 1. I don't know where you got 1 from, but it's definitely not 1, and it's definitely not 4. Okay? Now, moving on, if we solve this, A2 is equal to 3.14 times 2 squared, which is 4, which is equal to 12.56 centimeters squared. Here is the difference, or no, it's not a trick, but it's the idea. Remember that this is not, we're not adding shapes anymore like we were doing in previous examples. In this case, we have we have a circle which is a hole, okay, and we have the triangle that is not full because there's a hole cut out of it, which is of the size of this circle. So what we have to do here is the area total is going to be equal to area 1 minus the hole in the, which is the circle in this case, A2, minus the area of the circle. So it's going to be equal to 48 centimeters squared minus the 12.56 centimeter squared. Okay? So this is going to be equal to 48 minus 12.56, 35 0.44 centimeters squared. Again, you have to round to the nearest whole number. So we have to see the 4 to see what to do with the 5. The 4 is less than 5, so it's going to be 35 centimeters squared. Again, I will repeat the concept. So in this shape, just give me a second. In this shape, we have a triangle with a hole in the center, okay? And we're not adding shapes anymore. In previous examples, here, for example, and then we have multiple shapes that we are adding to each other. They're all shaded. تشوفون الأزرق الفاتح, the light blue shade. We need to find that area. In this case, we also need to find that area. We need to find the area which is completely shaded. So the blue part here, we need to find just this area. Just this area over here. Without the circular part. Okay? So to be able to do that, what we do is we find the total area of this triangle, the full area, but then we remove just this green part in the middle. Then when we remove that part, only the blue will be remaining outside. That's the idea. Okay? So the idea is to remove all the hole inside it, to remove it. We find the full triangle, and then as if we cut a hole inside, and then we find out what the size of this hole is, and we subtract the area of that hole from the main one. That's why we are subtracting. We are removing a part of this triangle. Okay? Is the concept clear? Yes, Amar. Amar, did you understand, or do you want تباني أعيد ولا فهمت النقطة؟ تمام. يعني ما نسوي perimeter بس الاريا. في هالحالة we cannot find the perimeter لأن we don't have the slide the angle the height اللي هو هني. الصورة خليني أروح الصورة الأساسية. إنزين. We don't have this. We don't have this side of the triangle. لأن we don't have this side of the triangle ما نقدر نطلع البارامتر. If it was given, yes, we can find the parameter, but because it's not given, we cannot find it. Okay? Let's do one more. Do you guys want me to do A or C? Decide. Do you want me to do A or C? Because I'm going to do one more and I want to go directly to the word problems. A or C? A? Okay, let's do A then. Okay. So again, we need to find the question says we need to find the shaded perimeter if possible and the shaded area. Now, here we can find the perimeter, obviously. It's not like the previous one. So the perimeter, okay, in this case, actually for this top case, okay, I should have mentioned this. Technically, you can find the inner parameter because before moving on to this question, actually, let's do that. زين خلينا نوديها شوي تحت. حق البارامتر when you have a shape within a shape, okay, you're gonna have two types of parameters. You're gonna have the inner parameter and the outer parameter, and then your total parameter will be those combined. So in parameter, it's going to be equal to inner parameter plus outer parameter. Okay, the inner parameter is this. This is your inner parameter. inner. زين. This is your outer perimeter. Outer. فالperimeter is the total. You have to add the outer and the inner perimeters. زين. So here technically you can find the inner perimeter. It's just simply 2 pi r اللي هو circumference. زين. You find that and you can find the value of it, which I believe will be equal to 2 times 3.14 times 2. So it's going to be 12.56. They علق عليه 12.56 centimeters squared. Okay, centimeters. Sorry, not squared. Just centimeters. Okay, so that's what they will call the inner. This is just the inner perimeter. Okay, this is not squared. This is the inner perimeter. Inner. Okay. Outer is not possible in this case. So you cannot find the total perimeter because you cannot find the outer. Okay. Now let's move on to the next question. Then, so we have this shape. Let's find perimeter. أول شيء, we know that this is 8 centimeters. It's the same as the opposite. We know that this is 9 centimeters. So we can find the outer perimeter. So let's look at the outer perimeter. Outer perimeter is equal to 8 plus 9 plus 8 plus 9, which is 34 centimeters. This is a given, yeah, centimeters. Okay. Now we find the inner perimeter. The inner perimeter is 2 plus an unknown value we will find, another unknown value we will find, plus 2 plus 4 plus 4. Logically, we have the full side as 4, and we know that this part is 2, like so. In other words, okay, we have 4. Okay, so this total part is going to be 4, and we know that half of it is 2, so this has to be 2 centimeters. Same thing with the bottom, so this will have to be 2 centimeters. Do you want me to go into details how I got these 2 and 2 or no? Because we did the exact same thing, I think, in the first question. I think it's exact similar shape as well. Okay? يعني what I did was, okay, I got this line over here. No need. Okay. تمام. لأنه واحد قاعد يعلق علي. I don't know what's up. Just give me a second. Let me restart my OneNote. Okay, so again, we found that now we can find the inner perimeter because we found all the dimensions. So the inner perimeter is equal to 2 plus 2 plus 2 plus 2 plus 4 plus 4. The inner perimeter is going to be 2 plus 2 plus 2 plus 2 plus 4 plus 4, which is 16 centimeters. Total perimeter is equal to perimeter inner plus perimeter outer, which is equal to 16 plus 34. The perimeter total is going to be equal to 16 plus 34 is 50 centimeters. Okay, that's how we found the perimeter. In the case when there's a hole or a shape inside the shape. Now, perimeter is very straightforward. Let's go to the only difference between this and previous is there is something called the inner perimeter as well that you have to add to the total perimeter. That's it. Now let's go to the area. Again, very, very straightforward. Same exact concept. Let's do it this way. Let's have the first shape. This is perimeter. احنا في perimeter we don't subtract. Perimeter we're just adding everything. لأن البريمتر is basically كل السايدز اللي outside يعني اللي عندهم edge. إنزين يعني مثلا إذا عندكم فريم مال صورة a picture frame, if you have a picture frame, the outside part and the inside part you can hold, you can touch these edges that has inside edges and outside edges. If you want to find the total perimeter, it's all of the edges you are adding to each other. فأنت you will add the outside edges of the which is called the outside perimeter of the shape. وبعدين حتى the inside edges you will add it to the outside, which is the inner perimeter. So in perimeters you're always adding. You're never subtracting in perimeters. Never. ما في case you will find يعني you're subtracting in perimeters as long as you're determining all your edges length. In area on the other hand هني اللي بيستوي فيه شوية subtraction. بنتكلم عن area. So أول شيء let's look at the total area. زين اللي هو البوكس هذا. زين it's the outside box. This box over here, okay? This is our outside area, our total area. You can call it our area 1. It's a rectangle, 9 by 8. Let's look at that first. So 1, rectangle, area, which is equal to length times width. Area 1 is equal to 8 times 9, which is equal to, لأن عندنا square, a rectangle, which is 9 and 8. So 8 centimeters by 9 centimeters equal to 73 صح 72 صح 72 centimeters squared. Okay, so 72 centimeters squared, this is the total area. Now before moving on to the second areas, we can do is we can split this, so we can split it into simpler shapes so we can find the total area of the whole of what we have to remove. Okay, so let's call this area 2 and let's call this area 3. Okay, and then we'll just find these, add them up, and then subtract it from the final answer. So let's do that step by step. So area 2 is also a rectangle, so it's a length times width. Area 2 is equal to the shape of the area 2 is a rectangle. That is 2 by 4, so it's going to be 4 times 2, which is equal to 8 centimeters. The same exact thing we will do again for the third shape, which is this one. It's a 2 by 2 squared. We already found out that this is 2 centimeters from before, so it's a square, so it's side squared. So area 3 is equal to 2 squared equal to 4 centimeter squared. Okay, squared. You can do this in many methods, okay, in the way you want to add or subtract or beforehand or after or whatever, but I will do it like in the simplest way so we can just do it all together at once without confusion. So area total is going to be equal to area 1 because that's the main area. Now, because we are removing area 2, we have to subtract. It's a hole, حفرة, فاضي, فراغ مكانه. There's nothing there. So we have to remove it. So minus area 2. Same thing with area 3, we have to remove it. So we have to subtract area 3 as well. And this is فراغ, empty, ما في شيء. We need to remove it from A1. We need to remove it from the original area. A1 is the shaded, the whole shaded part. يعني the whole square. So this is A1. Okay, the full thing. The full thing. That's A1. Okay, so we want to remove the green and blue parts from it. So the area total is going to be equal to, we already calculated all of these. Area 1 is equal to 72 centimeters squared minus 8 centimeters squared minus 4 centimeters squared. Put that all in the calculator. Total area is going to be equal to 60 centimeters squared. Okay, makes sense? Any questions about how I found the area for this one? So we can move on to word problems. Okay. The first word problem, it's going to take a few minutes only. It's very easy. Area of a parallelogram is 60 feet squared. Before even moving forward, the first step in word problems is step by step, you read everything and you write it down. So we're talking about the area. Area, you write A. you know it's area. Area of a what? Parallelogram. So you know it's an area of a parallelogram. So the first thing you do is, what's the area of a parallelogram? It's base times height. Okay? That's the first step. Before even reading the rest of the question, you know that you have an area of a parallelogram that would, and you know that the area is base times height. Now you continue. Is always means equals. So the area of a parallelogram is 60 feet squared. So we know that this is equal to 60 feet squared. 60 feet squared. Okay? The height is 5 feet. So they gave us the height. We already know that this height, it's given. So h is equal to 5 feet. How long is the base? So they want us to find the base. Very simple. You have an equation which is base times 5 is equal to 60. How do you solve for b? Solve for b. So what do? You divide by 5. Divide by 5 both sides to cancel the 5 here. b is equal to 60 divided by 5, which is 12 feet. Everything's given in feet. Easy. Next question. I'm going to move a bit fast now so we could just answer as many because these are mostly straightforward. So, the perimeter of the shape is 20 units. Find its missing side. So we know that we have the perimeter. Okay. And where did I copy paste that question? ما أعرف وين اختفى بس okay. It's fine. Doesn't matter. أظني حطيته midterm review بس it doesn't matter. Let's move on. Perimeter. The perimeter is P of the shape. We don't know what the shape is, but we can look at it and we can see. We already know that the perimeter is going to be equal to this value, plus this value, plus this value, plus this unknown value. And they tell us the perimeter is, so it's equal to 20 units. Okay? The units in this case is centimeters. There, because it's given here to be centimeter. Find the missing side. What do we know? The equation of the perimeter is just adding each side. So P, let's assign a value x to this unknown side. Perimeter is 4 plus 4 plus 5 plus x. And it's equal to 20. It's equal to 20. Okay? So solve for x. Solve. So we will move all of these to the other side. X is going to be equal to 20 minus 4 minus 4 minus 5. X is going to be equal to 5, 4, or 7. 7 centimeters. Done. We found the missing side. Moving on to the next question. Okay. Just 1 second. Okay. Moving on to the next question. So again, I'm just going to write the answer here. So this was base times height divided by base times height is equal to area of a parallelogram. Okay, so it's 5 base times 5 is equal to area, which is 60 given in the question. Base is going to be equal to 60 divided by 5, which is 12 feet. Okay, here what we did was, again, perimeter is equal to 20 and perimeter is also equal to, this is going to be x, so perimeter is equal to 4 plus 4 plus 5 plus x. X will be equal, which is all equal to 20. X is going to be equal to 7 after solving. Now, question 3. A triangular sail has a base of 3 meters. Again, step by step. Triangular. Triangle. What does triangle mean? Triangle. You draw a triangle. Has a base of 3 meters. So we know that this is 3 meters. And the height of 7 meters. So we know that this perpendicular height is 7 meters. If the canvas cost, so cost is BD 10. 10 dinar. 10 dinar for what? A square meter. Per 1 square meter or 1 meter square. Find the cost of the canvas to make. Now, here you have to go first and find the total area. How do you find the area of a triangle? Area of triangle is equal to base times height over 2, which is equal to 3 times 7 over 2. So the area is going to be equal to simply 3 times 7, that's 21, divided by 2. That is 10.5. Yeah, 10.5. Yes, 10.5 meters. Okay, squared. We found the area is 10.5 meters squared. Now, we know that based on the question, a canvas costs 10 BD per square meter. So we know that 1 meter squared will cost 10 BD. So by logic, 2 meters squared, how much will that cost? 20 BD if we have 2 meters squared, right? if we have يعني إذا عندنا أي شيء واحد منه يساوي 10 دينار، اثنين منه كم بيساوي 20 دينار. How do we know that? You are multiplying, basically you're doing 2 times 10. Same thing with 3 meters squared. If you have 3 meters squared, what would you do? You would do 3 times 10. 30, because you're doing 3 times 10. If you have 5 meters squared, you will do the exact same thing. It's going to be 5 times 10. So if we have 10.5, the area we have is 10.5 meters squared. BD will cost 10.5 times 10. So this, when you solve it, 10.5 times 10 is going to be equal to 105 BD. Does that make sense? Clear? This is the most, I think, complicated question between them all. إنزين. Good. Let's do this one, and then we'll leave that one. We'll do it at the very end. Okay. ما شاء الله كل هالكتابة بس اليوم. How many feet of the border are needed to go around a square bulletin board that is 7.5 feet on each side? What does that mean? We'll sketch the figure. So, how many feet? We need to know how many feet. So we know that the feet is the unit. It's also mentioned here. We need to go around a square bulletin board that is 7.5 feet on each side. شنو رصاصة؟ لا بوليتن بورد. تعرفون الادفرتايزنج بوردز اللي تشوفونهم في الشوارع اللي او يكون يعني بورد عندكم في الجامعه. شفت البوردات اللي في الجامعه؟ do you know the boards اللي where they post the health and safety things or notes or whatever or pass leader صور pass leaders, all though that's a bulletin board. Okay, so we have a bulletin board and it's a square shape. It's 7.5 feet on each side. Okay, that's what they are saying. Sketch the figure. How do I just automatically sketch the figure? And I recommend word problems. Always try to sketch the figure. It helps it, even if they don't ask you to, it helps you guys understand it a bit more. So it says how many feet of the border are needed. Okay. How many feet of the border are needed to go around the square bulletin board? يعني how many feet لازم يكون في حق البوردر. Very simple. What are you going to do? You're just going to find the perimeter. You need to find all of this. Best. To do that, you know it's a square, so you know the perimeter for a square is equal to 7.5 feet plus تقدرون تسوون بهالطريقة يعني 7.5 feet plus 7.5 feet plus 7.5 feet. أول شيء you could do that لأن or each side is 7.5 it's a square or p square is equal to 4 times s واللي هو في هالحالة ال s 7.5 feet so p square is equal to 30 feet of border وبس هذا البوردر اللي بنحتاج له مفهوم؟ very easy very straightforward. Now last question ونختمها هني إن شاء الله. Last question, it's exactly the same concept as the sale, but there is one extra step to it, okay, which I will cover right now. So the question mentions a hall. A hall is basically يعني قاعة, a hall. So you know it's going to have a rectangular shape. So a hall, we draw the hall. Okay, 20 feet long, 15 feet wide. Already we draw it out عشان نعرف. How much will it cost to 3 decimal places? 3 decimal places, you remember what it means, right? There should be 3 numbers after the decimal only. So we will round it to 3 numbers after the decimal. إنزين فيقول لكم how much will it cost to carpet the hall if carpeting costs 22 BD per square yard. شو يعني؟ يعني يبون يحطون كاربتس في هالهول على الأرضية يعني يبون يحطون أرضية زين يعني يبون يحطون سجاد على الأرضية. و each square yard ها keep in mind they say 1 square yard اللي هو يعني 1 yard squared costs 22 BD. احنا معطينا اياه in feet الdimensions. This is in feet بس معطينا التحويله. So we have to first step in this is make sure we change yard, the feet we have into yard. How do we do that? I will explain like the most, it's basically the way you're supposed to, yani the proof of how you are supposed to do transformation of units. This is the engineering method and the most common method known. But a lot of students do not know how to do it this way, not because it's hard, just because they weren't informed. This is the easiest way to never make a mistake if you have to go larger, if you have to go less, if yani, you know, you multiply, you divide, you will never have that issue if you follow this technique, so pay attention. We will look at the first side, أول side. We will look at the 20 feet, okay? Let's look at the 20 feet. We want to change this feet to yard. أعطونا التحويلة 1 yard يساوي 3 feet. Okay, so you will multiply this with something that has an up and a down. Yani this is division, a ratio or whatever. Now, what are we trying to cancel out? What are we trying to remove from here? We're trying to remove the feet. We don't want feet, so we want to cancel it. So how do we cancel? We have to divide by feet. صح ولا لا؟ عشان هني في هالحالة we can cancel this feet with this feet. So we will put feet down. And what are we converting this into? We are converting this into yard. So we will put whatever we're converting it into up the yard. Okay? So now the feet will cancel. بالآخر جواب يبقى لنا اليارد and it will be in yard. حلو. Now what's remaining? The numbers. So yard, what is next to yard? It's the number 1. So we put 1. Next to feet, it's the number 3. So we put 3. And that's it. Done. Done. And now you have done your conversion. You can always use this method for any type of conversion as long as you have the conversion rate. So if you put this in the calculator, it's going to be 20 times 1 over 3. Oh, 20 over 3. زين. And you can put it in the calculator and find the value. And I'll just keep it as 20 over 3 for now. And we will do the exact same thing for the 15 feet over here. So we need to convert it into yard. So we multiply the same exact concept as before. We will multiply by yard over feet because we want to cancel the feet. And it's 1 over 3 because that's the conversion rate given. And it's equal to 15 times 1 over 3. This is obviously in yard. 15, which is equal to 15 over 3, which is 5 yard. Okay, so now if I want to redraw the rectangle, this is 5 yards, and this is 20 over 3 yards. Okay, and now we can go and solve the question exactly the same way we did before. they told us that 1 square yard given in the question 22 BD per square yard. فنعرف إنه 1 yard squared cost 22 BD. What do we need to do? We need to find the area. So how do we find the area? Rectangle multiply length. Area is length times width. So it's equal to 20 over 3 times 5, which is equal to 100 over 3 meters squared. Yard squared, sorry. Yard squared. Okay? We know, again, like I said, we know that 1 yard squared gives 22 BD. 2 yards squared will give how much? 2 times 22 BD. 3 yards squared will give how much? 3 times 22 BD. بالمنطق. 100 over 3 yards squared will give how much? It will give 100 over 3 times 22 BD. You solve for this, put it in the calculator, 100 divided by 3 times 22, you get a long number which is 733.33333333, never-ending BD. Okay? But what did the question ask? The question asked, how much will it cost to 3 decimal places? 3 decimal places means, you see this decimal point over here? You count 1, 2, 3. So we want up to here. But we have to look at this number because we're rounding. Is it greater than 5 or less than 5? Less than 5. Okay, so the final cost will be 733.333 BD. Make sense? And that's the end of week 9. Does everything make sense? Any questions before we close this session out? Sorry, I went a bit over the time. For Q4, it is asking in question 4, how many feet of the border are needed? What is the border? The border هو edges. It's a border, لا? So لأن it's asking for the border are needed to go around. يعني أنتوا تبون you want to place it around the thing. So it's asking for the border to be placed around the bulletin board. So you're not looking at the area inside, you're looking at the edges. You want to place something along the edges. So how many feet of that border will you need? شو الطول ماله بيكون يعني what's the length or the width of it? That's why we know that we need to find the parameter.